Hello and welcome to day 3 of Black History Month, 28 Days of Black Excellence. I'm your host, Faith Amore, and today we are diving into the world of poetry. Who was this woman? She was a girl born in West Africa, perhaps Senegal or Gambia, brought to America on a ship called the Phyllis around the age of 7 against her will, and was enslaved in the home of the Wheatleys in America. They taught her to read and write in English and saw her talent and encouraged her to write poetry. Maybe you guessed it. Her name is Phillis Wheatley. She took some risks, but she was also given a lot of opportunity because she let it be known that she could learn and was willing to be taught by this family. So their 18-year-old daughter taught her to read and write. And by age 12, she was reading the classics. So she was reading it in Latin and in Greek, and she was reading authors in their native languages, which is incredible. I don't know. I can't do that. Absolutely not. So she was reading Milton and Homer and Virgil, and they were some of her influences. She went to London in 1773. Her family, she probably thought it was her family, but the Wheatleys, they sent her to London with their son, and they wanted to see if anyone would publish her works because she had become quite accomplished in writing numerous poems. And in fact, she ended up being published. New York wasn't interested, but London was. And she had to, in fact, defend herself in court to prove that, yes, indeed, she was the one who wrote these poems because they didn't believe that a slave could do this. It makes sense if a slave isn't educated, that a slave wouldn't be able to do something. But once you give someone an education, the sky's the limit. And that's what people had to realize. So while she was enslaved with the Wheatleys, she had some patronage. She had some white supporters in London who would help to provide funding for the publishing of this initial book of poems. And after the book was published, her owners freed her, so she was emancipated. After this point, she tried to get a second book of poems published, but unfortunately, her patrons kind of fell away once she was free. So she ended up marrying a man, a local grocer, but she married into poverty, and her husband very quickly after was put into debtor's prison because he was owing money. Soon after that, within the same year actually, she died, as did the infant son that she was caring for, and her previous 2 children beforehand had passed away as well, and she was only 31 at this point. So what is the impact of Phillis Wheatley? Well, there's a couple of different things. The first thing being that she was the first African-American person, let alone female, to have a book of poetry published. And this was in 1773. She was recognized by politicians of the day, the mayor of London, George Washington. She almost had an audience with the King of England, but it didn't work out for timing reasons. It was interesting. Voltaire, a French writer of the time, wrote something to the effect of, "This proves that Black people can write poetry." And to that, I just smile. So what is the legacy of Phillis Wheatley? She's been commemorated in libraries and community centers throughout the United States. And being the first, you can see that she paved the way for future poets, in particular the female Black poets like Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, Amanda Gorman. And so my challenge to you today is, what can you do in the spirit of Phillis Wheatley? Be the first, be the best, be the one we talk about for years to come. Put in the comments what your idea is. At this point, we look back so we can look forward to a better world. See you tomorrow when we'll talk about another Black hero for these 28 days of Black excellence. See you soon.